Today, we're going to unpack a proposal that has sparked, a ton of global debate: the Great Reset. This whole idea comes from a book by World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab and Thierry Muller, and it lays out a pretty radical vision for our future. So let's dive right in.
Right out of the gate, the authors hit you with this incredibly bold claim. The world we knew, it's gone, for good. It's not just on pause, it's been fundamentally changed. Their whole point isn't about getting back to normal, because according to them, normal is never coming back.
And that's the big question, isn't it? Why would they say something so definite? What makes them so sure that things have changed forever? Well, let's dig into their reasoning.
Okay, so the book frames the pandemic as way more than just a health crisis. They see it as a historic turning point. You know, one of those events that sharply divides history into before coronavirus and after coronavirus. And here is the absolute core of their argument. The virus didn't create new problems. Nope. They say it acted more like a giant spotlight, suddenly revealing and speeding up society and the environment. So what were these cracks they're talking about? Well, their view is that our world was this incredibly fragile, interconnected web of risks, just kind of sitting there waiting for a shock to send everything tumbling. And it all comes down to this one key idea: systemic connectivity. Basically, it means that no risk just exists on its own. An environmental crisis can trigger an economic one, and that can light the fuse for social unrest. In their view, everything, and I mean everything, is connected. Now, take a look at this map from the World Economic Forum. It does a fantastic job of showing what they mean. And yeah, it looks super complex because, well, it is. This whole web shows exactly how dozens of global risks, everything from climate action failure to cyber attacks, are all dangerously tangled together. Let's just trace one of these threads to make it simple. See infectious diseases right there? The book shows how that one event directly triggers social instability. That, in turn, can lead to fiscal crises and could even end in a failure of global governance. It's like watching a line of dominoes fall, a perfect example of that systemic connectivity they're talking about. But here's where the whole thing pivots. The authors don't just dwell on the problem. They argue that this massive worldwide disruption actually creates what they call a unique window of opportunity to build something totally new. You know how deep crises can totally shake up our assumptions? All of a sudden, changes that seemed impossible can feel absolutely necessary. The authors are basically saying this global pause button gives us a very rare and very short chance to fundamentally rethink the way our world works. And this quote, wow, it just nails the sense of urgency they're trying to get across. They're not suggesting we just sit back and wait to see what happens. For them, this is a loud and clear call to action, to get in there and consciously redesign our systems. So what does this reset actually look like in practice? The book breaks it down into two levels: big picture societal changes, that's the macro level, and then more focused changes within industries, that's the micro level. At the big picture level, they're proposing a huge shift in how we think about the economy. It means we stop chasing GDP growth and shareholder profits above all else, and instead we start focusing on broader goals like well-being and sustainability. A huge part of this is something they call stakeholder capitalism, the idea that a company has a responsibility not just to its shareholders, but also to its employees, its customers, its community, and the planet. And along with that, they call for a brand new social contract. Think about it. The pandemic showed just how vulnerable so many people are. So the argument goes that we need stronger social safety nets, better health care and assistance, and real protections for all workers, including those in the gig economy. It's about taking a hard look at what and who we truly value as a society. Now, on the industry level, the book argues the pandemic basically put the digital transformation into hyperdrive. We're talking about a remote everything world, right? We saw years of tech adoption get crammed into just a few months. This, of course, includes the insane growth of e-commerce and a new push towards automation as companies look for alternatives to human labor. Okay, so these are massive, high-level changes we're talking about. But what about you and me? What about the individual? How do the authors see this whole reset playing out in our own daily lives? Let's bring this all the way down to us, to the final piece of this puzzle, the individual reset. Because the book argues this global crisis could also spark a really profound shift inside each and every one of us. The authors kind of wonder if we'll see this major shift in our personal values, maybe moving
fragility on a global scale is a powerful thing. It makes you stop, it makes you think. It really can prompt a personal reset of what you truly value in life. And that's really where the book leaves us. It doesn't pretend to have all the answers. Instead, it frames this moment as a critical choice. The pandemic kicked open a door for change, and the question it poses to all of us is this: now that we have this chance to reset, what kind of world do we actually want to build?